The word useless didn't come like a shout. It came quietly repeated so often that it no longer needed volume to hurt. You never do anything right, my father would say, barely looking up from his phone. My mother didn't even bother correcting him anymore. She would just sigh, the kind that felt heavier than anger. Why can't you be more like Ion? Ion, the name that lived in every comparison, every expectation, every silent disappointment that filled our house. He was everything I wasn't: confident, successful, admired. While he walked into rooms and owned them, I slipped into corners and tried not to exist. While he spoke, people listened. When I spoke, people tolerated. At least, that's how it felt. Dinner was always the same. My parents would sit across from him, their faces lit with pride as he talked about business deals, high-profile clients, and his growing reputation. Their laughter came easily, then warm and genuine. But when the conversation turned to me, the air changed. "What are you doing these days?" my father would ask, his tone already bored. I would open my mouth, hesitate, then close it again. Because no answer ever felt good enough. "I'm trying." I'd start. "Trying isn't doing." He'd cut in, and just like that, I'd fall silent again. Family gatherings were worse. Relatives surrounded Ion like he was a celebrity. Compliments poured over him endlessly. "You've made your parents so proud." An uncle once said, clapping him on the back. Then his eyes shifted to me, a pause, a polite smile, and you'll figure things out. It wasn't cruel. It was worse. It was dismissive. I started avoiding mirrors after that. Not because I didn't like how I looked, but because I didn't recognize the person staring back. Someone unsure, someone small, someone useless. But the strange thing about being overlooked is that people stop hiding things from you. They assume you're not paying attention, that you don't matter enough to notice. And that's how I started seeing things. Little things at first: Ion's late, night calls behind closed doors, the way his voice dropped when he spoke, tense and hurried, the way he locked his laptop even if he stepped away for a second. It didn't match the image he showed the world. Perfect people don't act like they have something to hide. At first, I told myself it was none of my business. Maybe I was overthinking. After all, what did I know? I was the useless one. But one night, as I passed by his room, I heard something that made me stop. "Ooh, we can't afford mistakes," Ion whispered, his voice sharp with panic. "If this gets out, everything is over." My breath caught. Silence followed, then footsteps. I moved away quickly, my heart pounding. That was the moment everything shifted. Because for the first time, I realized something no one else seemed to see: Ion wasn't perfect. And whatever he was hiding, it was big enough to destroy him. And maybe big enough to change everything. Curiosity can feel like a whisper at first, easy to ignore, but once it finds a crack, it spreads quietly, persistently, until it becomes impossible to silence. After that night, I couldn't unhear Ion's words. "If this gets out, everything is over." They echoed in my mind, clashing against the image everyone else saw: the confident smile, the flawless success, the untouchable reputation. It didn't make sense, and for once, I didn't want to stay silent. So I started paying attention, not in a way that would draw notice. I had years of practice being invisible, of blending into the background. This time, I used that to my advantage. People don't guard themselves around someone they don't respect. That was my strength. Ion's routine became a pattern I could almost predict. Late, night calls, sudden trips, messages he deleted too quickly, and always that tension beneath his calm exterior. The more I noticed, the more certain I became. Something was wrong. Then came the moment I wasn't supposed to have. It was a quiet evening. My parents were out, and Ion had stepped away in a hurry, his phone ringing insistently. He left his laptop open on the dining table. I didn't mean to look. At least, that's what I told myself. But the screen was right there, numbers, columns, transactions, something about them felt off. My heart started racing as I stepped closer. My fingers hovered for a second before I touched the trackpad. One click, then another, files opened. Documents filled the screen, contracts, account details, transfers between names I didn't recognize. The amounts were too large, too frequent, too hidden. I swallowed hard. This wasn't normal business. This was manipulation, fraud. The word hit me like a wave. I scrolled faster, my breath growing uneven. Every file made things worse. Every detail added another layer to the truth I didn't want to accept. Ian wasn't just successful. He was lying to everyone, to our parents, to the people who trusted him, and maybe even to himself. A sound in the hallway snapped me back. I closed the laptop instantly, stepping away just as Ian walked back in. For a second our eyes met. Did he know? His expression didn't change, but something about it felt sharper, more guarded. "You were here?" he asked casually, just passing by. I replied, forcing my voice to stay steady. He nodded slowly, then closed the laptop completely this time. Locked. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, the weight of what I had seen pressing down on me. I thought about telling my parents. But the answer came before the question finished forming. They wouldn't believe me, because I was still the same person to them, the one who tried, the one who failed, the useless one. So I made a different choice. If my words didn't matter, then proof would. And I knew exactly when the truth would hurt the most. Ian's grand gala. The night he would stand in front of everyone, celebrated, admired, untouchable. The perfect stage for a perfect illusion to break. The night of the gala felt unreal, like stepping into a world that was never meant for me. Crystal chandeliers shimmered above, casting golden light across polished floors. Laughter floated through the air, mixed with the soft clinking of glasses and quiet conversations between people who looked like they belonged. I didn't, but that had never stopped me before. I stood near the entrance for a moment, watching as guests arrived in elegant suits and dresses, greeting Ian with admiration and respect. He moved through the crowd effortlessly, smiling, shaking hands, owning the room like it was built just for him. And maybe, until tonight, it was. My parents stood close to the stage, pride written all over their faces. My mother's eyes sparkled every time someone praised Ian. My father stood taller, as if his son's success reflected directly on him. "Look at him." I heard my father say to someone beside him, "That's my son." I felt the familiar ache settle in my chest. But this time it didn't crush me, it fueled me. I adjusted my grip on the small bag in my hand. Inside it was everything I had worked for over the past few days: copied files, organized evidence, and a presentation I had built piece by piece in silence. No one had noticed. No one ever did. That was why it would work. The evening moved forward. Speeches began. Applause followed. And then, finally, Ian stepped onto the stage. The room quieted instantly. He looked flawless under the lights, calm, confident, untouchable. "I want to thank everyone here tonight," he began, his voice smooth and controlled. "This journey hasn't been easy, but with hard work and integrity." The word integrity almost made me laugh. Almost. My heart pounded as I moved along the side of the hall, keeping my head down. The control panel was just ahead, partially hidden behind a decorative partition. No one stopped me. No one questioned me. Invisible, always invisible. I reached the panel and plugged in the device with trembling hands. For a moment I hesitated, not because I doubted the truth, but because I knew there was no going back. Once this started, everything would change for him, for my parents, for me. I took a deep breath. Then I pressed the button. The screen behind Ian flickered. He paused mid-sentence, confusion crossing his face. The elegant logo of the event disappeared, and in its place, cold, undeniable data appeared: documents, transactions, names. Gasps spread through the room like wildfire. "What is this?" someone whispered. Ion turned, his expression draining of color as he recognized what was being displayed. "No, this isn't," he started, but his voice faltered. I stepped forward. For the first time, I wasn't hiding. "This," I said, my voice cutting through the silence, "is the truth." Every head turned toward me. My parents stared, shock replacing pride. "You called me useless." I continued, my eyes locked on theirs. "But I saw what you didn't. I noticed what you ignored." The room felt frozen, because in that moment the illusion shattered, and there was no way to rebuild it. Silence doesn't last long after truth. It breaks, and when it does, it shatters everything in its path. The gala dissolved into chaos within minutes. Conversations turned into accusations. Guests whispered urgently, some stepping away, others pulling out their phones. The elegance of the night faded, replaced by tension so thick it felt suffocating. Ion stood frozen on stage. For once, he didn't have the right words, didn't have the charm, didn't have control. "Turn it off," he snapped, his voice cracking under pressure. But it was too late. The evidence had already been seen. Screens filled with numbers and names that couldn't be explained away with a smile. People began leaving. Slowly at first, then all at once. The empire he had built wasn't collapsing quietly. It was falling in front of everyone. My parents didn't move. They stood there, staring at the screen, then at Ion, then at me. Like they were trying to piece together a reality that no longer made sense. This can't be true," my mother whispered, but her voice lacked conviction, because deep down she knew. Ion stepped off the stage, walking toward us. Each step seemed heavier than the last. "You don't understand," he said, his tone desperate now. "I did this for us, for the family, for the family," I repeated, my voice calm despite everything inside me, "or for the image." He flinched. That was answer enough. Security arrived shortly after. Quiet but firm, they spoke to Ion, their expression serious. There was no scene, no dramatic struggle. Just a quiet, undeniable shift of power. For the first time in his life, he wasn't in control. As they led him away, he looked back once, not at our parents, at me. There was no anger in his eyes, just something closer to disbelief. Like he never imagined I could be the one to bring him down, and maybe that was the real truth. He never saw me. The crowd thinned until only a few people remained. The grand hall, once filled with admiration, now felt empty and cold. My mother finally turned to me, her eyes searching mine. "Why didn't you tell us?" she asked softly. I held her gaze. Would you have believed me? The question hung between us, unanswered, because we both knew the truth. Days passed after that night, but the silence at home felt different now, heavier, but honest. No more comparisons, no more blind praise, just reality. One evening my father sat across from me, his expression quieter than I had ever seen it. "I was wrong," he said, "no excuses, no pride, just truth." And somehow that mattered more than anything. I didn't feel victorious the way I thought I would. There was no joy in Ion's fall, but there was something else, something steadier, recognition, respect, and finally space to exist. My revenge was never about destroying him. It was about proving I wasn't what they called me. I wasn't useless. I was the one who saw clearly when everyone else chose not to. And in the end, that truth became my strength. And that was the sweetest revenge of all.